Hi, everyone. So I have to say, I find it kind of ironic that I'm standing here as Director of Operations for a 100% remote team in a room full of people breathing the same air, talking about the 4 keys to success on onboarding your remote team. Anyway, hello to the people who are listening and participating remotely. I feel very kindred with you right now. So, hi. So I have a question for you. Would you, when looking for a job, make me an audio file and tell me of a time that you messed up and what you learned from it? Yeah, I figured some of you would. In the outside world, that's not the case. This is really a story about what I did at Convert. Convert.com is a 100% remote team. We are currently, as of March, in all these locations. We're about 40 people, give or take. And things get fun. When I came on board, we had 51% turnover. Not a great metric. And I also came on to do organizational change. What I realized really quickly was that the way that we were doing things were holdovers from brick and mortar, face-to-face collaborations. This image, I'm sure, sparks familiarity in a lot of people. Onboarding, hiring, it's stacks and stacks. Everything starts to look the same. A summary statement. The new hot layout. Doesn't matter how good your keywords are, it all kind of blends together. There has to be a better way. So when I started this process at Convert, I realized that we had to lay the foundation of everything with our values. The values have to come first and drive everything. So at Convert, we have progress, not perfection. Accountability, communication, and transparency. These are our keys to success in a remote team, in our remote team. As a remote work evangelist, I happen to believe that these are also the keys to any successful remote team, and I'm sure that you would all, as agilists, agree that these are successful for any high-performing team. But this has to underlay everything. So that's your key number 1. We're going to go for hiring successfully in a remote team. We have to look at the values, and then I started to look at the process. So historically, it's what we've all done. What's the need? What's the business case? What's the budget? And let's put that out there and see what we get. And then we all have different levers and processes in place to go through the stack of applicants. Hopefully we have a stack of applicants. We make the process part of this journey. The people who are applying are directly responsible for our hiring process, how it works. So step 1, I asked you that question. And many of you said yes. There's also, in that first step, a video question and a written question, in addition to some technical questions based on your line of business. Now, the interesting thing is that when you shouted out that there were some of you who would do this, the reality is that 80% of people who come into my pipeline will not. Self-selection, perfect. Lots of people coming, professionals who may be great at what they do, but if they can't answer these questions, it's an automatic disqualification. Because we believe so strongly that to build and scale our remote team culture, we need to have people who can abide by and who can live and have in their DNA progress, not perfection, accountability, self-reflection, growth mindset, excellent communicators. Our default is video on. So you kind of need to be able to feel comfortable just turning on the camera, no matter what you look like. And I assure you, I don't generally look like this when I'm working from home. I wore pants today. Thank you. I also flat ironed my hair, but you know. So 80% don't reach step one. So I have 300 applicants. You can do the math for me, okay? All of a sudden, it looks pretty good, right? So those applicants who are now actually decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the leap and answer those questions that are making me a little bit uncomfortable, 50% of them don't make it through. They either don't have the ability to self-reflect, they are not, I thought that was the timer. I was like, They don't pass step one, so they can't self-reflect. They don't have a growth mindset. Maybe they're not fluent enough. Okay, would note as an aside that our team has 3 native English speakers. Our common language of communication is English. Most of us speak multiple languages, but it's really important that you have a solid grasp. You don't have to have accentless. You don't have to be fully fluent, but you do need to be able to communicate written, audio, and video. Super important. So I'm going to give a recap at the end for everything, so you don't need to write it down. But I'd like to invite you to think about which values you can inject in your own organization or maybe in your own team to change the process of how you hire. And which burden can you move to the applicant? If you know that you need an applicant who embodies certain qualities, then what can you do at the very beginning to make sure that you have that person in the pipeline? You don't want to find out when you're on stage 3. The third thing is going niche. It's really, really tempting to sit in a meeting, decide what you want to do, what you want to have as your job posting. Everyone has their 5, 10 cents, $1 they want to throw into the pot. Suddenly you have a beautiful long list of this perfect candidate that does not exist in the real world. And we then have, and we've all been on the other side of it, you're looking at these job postings online, you're like, oh my God, I can do like 8 of these 10 things. I don't know if I should apply or not, right? It gets overwhelming. You cannot be everything to everyone. Go niche. I took a page out of a marketing book, not, metaphorically speaking. You need to understand what your persona is. Who do you want to be sitting at that table with, or a virtual table, discussing business objectives? Who do you want at your side in your team implementing projects? You want someone who can think clearly, who can work independently, all these great things that we love in agility, whether it's capital A or lowercase a. But we need to really communicate these things to people. So I took 2 snippets from our active job posting. which is actually, I would say, the posting that's up there now is create your own adventure. So we always have that one up. If there's nothing open, people can, if you think that you would be a great fit for our team, make us a proposal. So the language that we use is also self-selecting. There are some people who will read this disclaimer at the bottom and think, oh my God, way too politically correct. I can't deal with that. I'm not interested. Okay, great. Then you're not for us. I'm sure if the world is my hiring ground, I can find someone who's going to fit the bill. And if it makes you uncomfortable that we're talking about diversity in such explicit terms, then maybe Convert isn't the place for you. Okay. Niche, really talking about accents. We consistently have hires, even if they don't, hires and people who actually don't make it through the process, who will turn around and say, you know what? English is my second or third language, and I always feel a little bit nervous applying because I'm worried that that's going to be counted against me, or I don't feel super confident in that my skills are going to be at the fore. Having that in there is something that can really take that barrier, whether it's explicit or not, away from somebody. And if that's something that your team or your organization believes in, put it in there. So again, with niche, knowing your audience, this is some more content that we have that we use. My favorite one here is displaying initiative, owning your mistakes, because you'll know that you'll do it better next time. And my favorite, because Morgan is not actually my first name, but I'm not telling you what it is. I get really frustrated. I go to the ATM, and it always greets me. And it greets me by the wrong name, and it drives me bananas. And I thought about this, and I was like, I don't want to go through a whole system and have people be like indentured to a name that's on their legal documentation. Let's show some respect to what adults want to be called. So here you go. Matt. You have your chance to call yourself whatever you like, whatever you're called in the adult world, and whatever's on your legal documentation is something else. We don't care. When we talk about niche, the one thing I realized was that paying lots of money to post jobs that got spammed across the entire internet didn't get me great candidates. It just didn't. It cost a lot of money, and it cost a lot of time to have to go through and sift through all that. Know where your personas hang out. Is it Stack? Is it Git? Is it Slack? Is it communities? What is it? Take the time, get invested in there, dig in. So I'd like you to think about that persona, about the person who's going to sit across from that team, who's going to be giving retrospectives. Is that the right word? That's the right word, right? And doing all that agile stuff that y'all do. What does that persona look like? And the fourth key is building connections. And I would even go as so far as to say creating a tribe, if you will. So at the very core, I often got frustrated about how indifferent the hiring and onboarding process is. It's a little bit antagonistic. It's a little bit, it often made me feel like I had to sell myself in a certain way to get where I wanted. And I have no qualms about digging deep and trying hard, but I never felt that what I gave is what I got in return. How many of you have been ghosted? Just one? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm going with 80% of you have been ghosted. So I think it's important that we're looking at the persona of who's going to sit across that table from you and sit in that meeting, but we also need to think about treating those people coming in as people, as customers, and as clients who are going to give us something. They are giving us something. They're giving us the ability to execute those OKRs, to measure what matters, and it's really, really important. So I found this was from someone who's currently on the team. And this is talking really, I love the part that this person, and I realize now that that's very, very small, so I apologize for that. But the part that I loved was, so this person was recruited off some very niche Facebook group, and the line that was used in the hiring was, "It's not my company, but it feels that way." So that's the person that was actually making the post. They then got a very high-touch experience in terms of customer care, if you will, and they loved the human touch. This is something that I have heard time and time again from people who have been accepted or not accepted. They always appreciated the touch and the service that we had. And what ends up happening, no peeking. What ends up happening is they become advocates for your brand. They become advocates for your team. They become advocates for what you're doing. So Convert.com is really well known now, after a lot of hard work, about being very progressive in the remote work world in the SaaS. We're a SaaS company, okay? That didn't happen by accident. It was a lot of high-touch customer service, relationship building to people that not only did we want on the team, but maybe people who weren't ready, but people who could advocate for us. Oh, yeah, heard about this, great company doing A/B testing, or I heard about, someone who talks a lot about remote work. Talk to Morgan. What's a better way? I can't think of a better way to recruit great talent, because like-minded people and talented people attract other talented people. So I'll leave you with this for communication. This is the most fun part. So when people come into the team for their first day, we're a remote team. You're not working in an office. You're walking into Slack channel, and you're greeted with video after video of people welcoming you to the team from their location. I've blurred out their faces for privacy. I don't know if people are taking screenshots or whatever. So this is great because you get a sense of what someone's presence is like, what they sound like, how they move. Things that you would feel in a co-located environment, but things that remote work becomes really anonymous and task-oriented and unseen, frankly. This is a way to see people and to understand how they speak. So that's always fun. So think about, please, when you're doing hiring, even for contractors on your team, how can you welcome new people into your team? If you're outsourcing talent, how can you make them feel like they're part of the solution? I guarantee if you use video like that, the investment that you have from the beginning is going to pay off in terms of their emotional and professional investment long term. So the fun part about this whole journey that I did at Convert is we now have a 95% retention rate. Right? A lot of high touch, but it's been so worth it. People come in, they love to work. I love to go to work. I love to wake up in the morning and roll over and go to work. I have an office in my home. And it's also resulted in 60% year-over-year growth, which I'm pretty happy with. It's led us to be a leader in our, oh, I'm done. So it's led us to be a leader in our A/B personalization tool, and we're very happy about that. Have some downloads and PDFs. If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to send them to you, and I'm happy to brainstorm anytime about some problems or solutions that you might need. Thank you.